March 22nd, 2016. We're going to start with an invocation from the Reverend Dan Phillips, Grace Fellowship. Welcome, sir, and thank you for your service. After that, the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Harris.
Our Father, we come to you this morning, and there are many thoughts and there are many emotions in our hearts and in our lives. Father, we want to prepare ourselves to celebrate one of the most holy days that could ever be. But Father, as we pick up newspapers and as we see on television, there is such evil, there are such great fears, there are such tragedies and catastrophes. People ruthlessly, senselessly killing others just because they can or to promote an idea. Father, we know that there are hurting families and there are broken families, and only you, through your gracious love, can heal those families, can heal those hurts, can help us understand not what happened, but Father, help us to understand how to go on. And as we stand here in this great room, Father, there is business to be done. There are people to hear. There's work to do. And so, Father, we ask that you guide each and every person, each and every thought, every word that is spoken in this place. That, Father, you honor those that have committed their lives to serve in this county. That, Father, those that live here in this county would have a heart of love for their neighbors and this place. And so, Father, we come to you in your presence to ask you to help us do the very best that we can as we raise our children here, as we work here, as we prepare to meet the future. Everything, Father, we need your help. We need your guidance. And so, Father, we humbly ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Everybody's seated here, and good morning again. Commissioners, we have your meeting minutes from the March 8th, 2016 meeting. Have you had a chance to review them? If so, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes carried. Thank you, sir. Ma'ams. Mrs. Hartley, you're next on the agenda. Mr. Harvey, you have a proclamation, and Mrs. Hartley, if you want to open, you have some words to.
Well, we're here for two, I think, so.
Yes, you are.
One of them is this, to build awareness for national, I hate this, it is. To build awareness for the national service that's done in this community. Currently, we have VISTA members that are serving in the community, that's Volunteers in Service to America. We also have a huge senior corps. I know if some of you go to the schools, you see those folks. They're our foster grandparents. Not to be confused with foster parents. Okay, our foster grandparents are senior citizens over 55, which is kind of harsh, isn't it? Over 55?
No.
Yeah, it is. It used to be 65. They keep moving it
Lowering
down.
it.
Yeah, so it's 55 and over, and we have several that are in their 80s. They volunteer in the schools throughout the community in the pre-K, kindergarten, first and second grade. We do actually have, I think, one at the high school at Interlochen. So they're there to be mentors, to be listeners, to help the children. Sometimes it's just the kindness and the walk that they may take them. This is our program director, Lisa Velukovic. She's been with us for quite a few years now. It is her passion also, and it is a real challenge sometimes to get 45 senior citizens on the same path because they're all adults and they're a little different than the children. They all have their ideas and their opinions about how to do things. So, and they're back in the day. So the new schools, the new way we handle things in the schools today are a little different than it was when they were going to school. So we're just here for you to recognize they're here, they're in large numbers, and so the Corporation for Community and National Service is the funder, and we really appreciate them. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Putnam County Proclamation Number 2016-10, recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be honored to present this proclamation for the commission's consideration.
Okay, thank you. Got it backwards a little bit.
Putnam County Proclamation Number 2016-9, County Day of Recognition for National Service. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges. And whereas the nation's county and city officials are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet communities' needs. And whereas AmeriCorps and Senior Corps address the most pressing challenges facing our communities and nation, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century and supporting veterans and military families to preserve the environment and helping communities recover from national disasters. And whereas national service participants serve in more than 70,000 locations across the country, bolstering the civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being. And whereas national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve with, both through their direct service and by recruiting and managing millions of additional volunteers. And whereas AmeriCorps members and Senior Corps volunteers demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with county and city officials nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with county officials across the country to support the County Day of Recognition for National Service on April 5th, 2016. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Putnam County do hereby proclaim April 5th, 2016 as National Service Recognition Day and encourages residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our county, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities. Mr. Chairman, I would like to move this proclamation in the form of a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Congratulations. You want a photo with your staff? Sure. Yes, y'all stand up. Oh, okay. Well, we've learned on
I didn't see anything. I didn't hear nothing. Didn't hear a click, nothing.
that thing will roll off. Okay, Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Putnam County Proclamation Number 2016-10, recognizing April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas preventing child abuse and neglect is a community problem that depends on involvement among people throughout the community. And whereas child maltreatment occurs when people find themselves in stressful situations without community resources and don't know how to cope. And whereas the majority of child abuse cases stem from situations and conditions that are preventable in an engaged and supportive community. And whereas all citizens should become involved in supporting families and raising their children in a safe, nurturing environment. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created amongst families, social services agencies, schools, faith communities, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and business community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners hereby recognize the month of April 2016 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Putnam County, and calls upon all citizens, community agencies, civic organizations, faith groups, medical facilities, and businesses to increase their participation in an effort to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and neglect and strengthening the communities in which we live. Mr. Chairman, I move approval of this proclamation.
We have a motion on the floor. Did I get a
Second.
second? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those like sign, it carries.
First of all, I'm not going to introduce people. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you what agency they represent. But what I would like to give you an idea, April's going to be a busy month for us. We're really, really pushing awareness and prevention of child abuse in this community. While we continue to work at this problem, this past year, where we are today as compared to last year, we have 219% above the out-of-family custody care, which means we're at 219% above where those children are being put in foster care because there's an issue in the family. Not 100, not even 200, above 200%. So the community partnership and all the agencies have a lot on their plate in taking care of our children. The month is going to kick off with a diaper drive. So for the entire month of April, we'll be doing a diaper drive for Healthy Start and Healthy Families. And we have representatives here, and they can just tell you briefly. They sound the same, but they're not quite the same, but it's about children. Friday the 8th will be Wear Blue Day, and blue is support of prevention. So I would encourage all of you here and all of you in your businesses and your organizations to wear blue that day. Then we're going to have the traveling pinwheel bus. There's a tour bus this year that's going all over the state. We've booked them for April the 20th to be down at 1910 Reed Street in front of the Community Partnership for Children in that parking lot. Any of you that can come that day, they're going to be there at 4 o'clock. They probably won't be there very long. They're going on to Dunedin. So, but we'll have them probably for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2. We've also asked the Bikers Against Child Abuse to be here. So we may have some motorcyclists that come in that day too. And we're asking some of our agencies to be there and maybe have some information about what we do. So we've got a busy month. We're diaper driving. We're wearing blue. We've got the bus coming and maybe some other folks coming in conjunction with that. One of the big things we're going to be doing is putting out 1,300 pinwheels. The pinwheels, the significance of the pinwheel is several years ago, they used the pinwheel as the winds of change. So what we're going to try to do is line the street up before and after the Community Partnership building. So when the tour bus comes in, the van or the truck or whatever they're wrapping or however they're doing it comes in, it is very obvious that we're aware of child abuse prevention and that we are doing what we can. I brought all the 5 of you a pinwheel. So I would hope that during that event or a little bit before, that maybe you'll go down and stick a pinwheel in one of the areas of the grass where we're sticking them. I would caution you, you need to bring a screwdriver or something to go to put it in. You cannot push this pinwheel in the dirt. It will break. So we'll be out there. We've got rotaries that are going to help us put the pinwheels up on the 19th. And then typically what we do is we leave them up a few days. We take them down. If they're out very long in the sun, the blue turns silver. We bag them all up, and then we distribute them to the daycares because they love it. The actual event will be 4 o'clock on the 20th, okay? So while I'm handing you these pinwheels and getting your signed commitment, they can explain what they did.
If you can, don't give Commissioner Pellissier one. We won't get anything out of him the rest of the meeting. I have to pick on you, Walt.
He's
Ladies,
just
if I could
jealous.
get you right up here for a Kodak moment.
Sandra,
Commissioners, y'all
you
come
said the
together.
20th of
Oh,
April?
she wanted them to say something.
Do we have a photographer? There we go.
When's Friday event? Places. Okay.
Nancy, you come this in?
Whoa. You're good. I get to play with it anyhow.
We won't leave Commissioner Palacier to his own device. How's that?
Okay. They're gonna make some remarks, Mr. Chairman? Yes. They are.
Oh, mine fell off. That's what.
It always fell apart. Yep.
I'm Karen Wolf, and I'm the provider liaison for Healthy Start of North Central Florida. And I've actually been coming to this area for quite some time when I work with the University of Florida. Sandra and I actually started the Child Abuse Prevention Project here a long time ago. It was a task force, and this wonderful lady has kept this task force up and going for over 15 years now. And so I kind of phased in and out with a position and then found myself back into the territory again, working with Healthy Start. And our goal is to reduce infant mortality. We service pregnant women with babies up to age 3. And that's our goal. We try to educate them. And I call on all of the providers in a 12-county area, medical providers, OB providers, and pediatricians, to educate them about the program and the services, and all of our services are free. Doesn't matter the level of income, what kind of insurance they have. The state of Florida says that they're entitled to this service, and we want to make sure that we offer it to all of them.
Thank you.
Great service.
Hi, I'm Randy Terry with Healthy Start, Supervisor for Putnam County. Karen's kind of stolen my thunder, so I'll just say that I work with all of these entities, and I also sit on the Transportation Disabled Board with Nancy, and I represent needy children for the community in that arena. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Vicki Beasley. I'm a supervisor with Community Partnership for Children. I've been working with Community Partnership for Children for the past 13 years.
Thank you.
As she said, Karen kind of said it all, but my name is Melissa Kahn. I'm the new community liaison for the Healthy Start program of North Central Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Lacey Comer. I'm the program manager for Healthy Families Putnam. We are a child abuse prevention program that goes into the homes and talks to the parents about parent-child interaction and just to help them complete any goals that they want. So,
Thank you.
I'm Mariana Cotter, and I'm the Program Operation Administrator for Community Partnership for Children. And basically, we provide services to any child or any family that comes in through DCF. I would like to put something out there. We have I believe it's the first week in May, and we'll be getting invitations out, but we're having a meeting of hope, and we're inviting all the community leaders to come and do a talk on how to prevent children from becoming having to go into out-of-home care. And because as Sandra said, we've had a huge increase in children in out-of-home care. We now have 263 children that are not in their homes. So, and that's just in Putnam County. And Putnam County was like #1 in this whole region for children, increase in children in out-of-home care. So I hope you'll all come when I get the invitations to you. I thought that we were going to have them this morning, but we don't, so.
Commissioner Flagg, you want to start it off? We have commissioner comments.
Yes, it's, again, a reality check for all of us and for all of our citizens throughout this county to know the statistics. But what is so meaningful to us is that our children are not statistics to you. They're real. These families are real. The dysfunction that is occurring throughout the nation and world, we know the breakdown of the family there. But you all are the super glue. You're the ones who put it back together. And so thank you for your service to our community. And to me, the role that you play is so important, because you have to be in the right frame of mind to be able to reconnect and also to transition these children from where their comfort zone, although the comfort was uncomfortable there, in order to put them with strangers and to make that bridge happen. So thank you, whether it's from the medical perspective of this, whether it's from the sociological or the physiological, all of those disciplines coming together, working with these families really means a lot to us. And we know that you're the ones where the rubber meets the road, so thank you.
Commissioner Harris?
I want to thank each of you. It's no wonder that your faces are familiar and you serve in different organizations doing good things in the community. Thank you for that, and thanks for working with our children, our future. And it's the job of all of us to look out for them and do what we can. And thanks for your good work.
Good. Okay, I think that's it. And Sandra, thank you, all of you. Thank you so much. Okay, is Casey Kasem with us this morning? There's Casey. Can you meet me at the podium, please, sir? Commissioner Pelletier, hold up your pinwheel and read that proclamation at the same time.
Skip the pinwheel part.
You want me to hold it for you? No.
Morning.
Tabitha, my proclamation does not have a number, so I'm just going to go with it.
Good morning. Proclamation number 2016, declaring April 2016 as the month for community awareness and unity in combating drug and alcohol addiction in Putnam County, Florida. Whereas the United States continues to experience a drug and alcohol addiction epidemic with new and more potent and deadly forms of illicit drugs flooding our country. And whereas the United States has become a society so accepting of addiction that we are disregarding the devastating effects of drug and alcohol addiction continues to have on our country, families, communities, crime statistics, and healthcare system. And whereas Hollywood contributes to this acceptance by continuing to influence not only our youth, but people of all ages by glamorizing drug and alcohol addiction in its television shows, movies, and commercials. And whereas Putnam County remains listed as Florida's 11th most dangerous county in the state, as this categorization is due to the large part of Putnam's drug and alcohol epidemic. And whereas the number of deaths in Putnam County as a result of drug overdoses is unfathomable, and the term died unexpectedly is sadly appearing in more and more obituaries, especially those of a young age. And whereas Putnam County's prescription drug, illicit drug, and alcohol abuse problem continues to grow epidemically, snaring people of all ages and walks of life. And whereas, recognizing the grave importance and need to battle this epidemic, some of Putnam County's elected officials, churches, local law enforcement, business owners, citizens, affected families, and friends have united to fight drug and/or alcohol addiction and the devastating effects addiction has had on our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners on this 22nd day of March 2016 that the month of April 2016 is hereby declared as community-wide anti-drug and alcohol abuse addiction awareness and combat month. Be it further proclaimed that all citizens, families, church leaders, and congregations, local government leaders, local county and city and law enforcement representatives of our local mental health and drug coalition, civic organizations, and business owners are hereby encouraged to attend and participate in the upcoming 2016 U-Turn Anti-Drug and Alcohol-Dependent Community Outreach to be held on April 16, 2016 at John Theobald Sports Complex at 120 Carter Road, Palatka, from 11 to 4 p.m. Done, ordered, and proclaimed this 22nd day of March 2016. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer this proclamation.
Second.
As a motion.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like signs. Congratulations. Speak right into the mic. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
We're here today for the proclamation declaring April 2016 as a month for community awareness and unity in combating drug and alcohol addiction in Putnam County, Florida. At this time, I'd like to introduce Greg Harvey, who serves on the U-Turn board as our treasurer. Now I want to give you a brief history and update about U-Turn since we were here about a year ago. U-Turn outreach originated at Southside Baptist Church through a personal experience and was held at the church in 2011 and 2012. Then in 2013, it evolved into U-Turn Community Outreach, and the annual event became a community-wide event and was held at the Riverfront Park, and again there in 2014. Then last year, U-Turn 2015 was moved to the county-owned facility, the John Theobald Sports Complex at 120 Carter Road, Palatka, because of the hotel that was being built at the event site. And I'm happy to report that Ms. Angie Wisnett, Director of Parks and Recreation, and her staff have been very helpful and cooperative in accommodating us last year and this year. However, we did encounter a situation with the city of Palatka at the last minute last year when it was discovered that the John Theobald Sports Complex was in the city's jurisdiction and that we would have to go through the permitting process with the city, and we were then denied a permit due to time limit. At that point, I turned to then Commission Chairman Carl Flagg, and he was able to help me work with the mayor's office, and through special call meetings it got resolved. This all took place within a 2-week window prior to the event. So knowing that this year, we followed all the protocol, and we are scheduled for our final item at the City Commission meeting this Thursday night, which is for the noise variance. It would be nice, however, if something could be done so that it could be a one-stop government shop and not have to deal with 2 different government entities for a single event. We did get a lot of nice compliments from the people who like the new site better because it's all fenced in and they feel more secure with their kids. U-Turn 2016 Community Outreach Incorporated, now in its 6th year, is an anti-drug and alcohol addiction community outreach and will be held Saturday, April 16th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our event sponsorship efforts are nearing an end this year, and as we have about 10 days before we have to send out our event programs to print. As of this morning, U-Turn 2016 is being sponsored by 1 corporate sponsor, 9 churches, 46 businesses, and 53 individuals. It takes a lot to put this on, and the goal of U-Turn all along has been to be able to help local people who are ready to make a U-turn in their life by turning away from their addiction. I am happy to report that we've been able to start doing that, and in 2015, U-Turn presented its first scholarship to a young lady who had successfully completed a Teen Challenge recovery program and is currently attending the Emerging Leaders College to earn a degree in ministry. Also in 2015, U-Turn presented a scholarship for another woman/mother to enter Teen Challenge recovery program in Davie, Florida. And just last month, U-Turn presented a scholarship for a young man/father to enter a Teen Challenge program in Sanford, Florida. This is all made possible by the generous giving of local businesses, churches, and individuals in our community, just like you. We are still accepting event sponsorship for this year if anyone would like to give. Of course, we accept general contributions year-round. U-Turn Community Outreach, Inc. is now a standalone 501c3 nonprofit organization and is fully tax deductible. And we can also accept credit cards. We try to make it as easy as possible because the more help we get, the more help we can give. There are no paid staff, and all of the proceeds beyond the cost of putting on the event go towards helping local people make a U-turn in their life. U-Turn Community Outreach addresses drug and alcohol prevention, awareness, and offers referrals and help, and most of all, hope for those in need. There'll be kids' activities, education, information, dramas, and testimonies from Teen Challenge South Florida, and from our local Celebrate Recovery group headed up by Jeremy and Melissa Ray. And this year, a very special guest, Pastor Bernie Gallot and his wife Kathy, who are global evangelism coordinators with Teen Challenge International. Bernie and Kathy travel all over the world teaching program directors how to help people make a U-turn in their life. I spoke with them just the other day, and it's the first time I've ever received a call from Russia. And we were so excited to be able to get them to our little town of Palatka, Florida. Of course, we'll have live music with the Josh Bramos Band, free food, drinks, snow cones, popcorn, lots of door prizes, and fun for the whole family. The entire event is all free to all who attend. I want to share with you a very profound statement that was posted on U-Turn's Facebook page that stated, "There is no hell quite like the hell of watching dope change somebody you love into somebody you don't even know." There are many families in Putnam County living in that hell right now. My family lived it for a long time. And it doesn't have to be that way. The Bible tells us in John 10:10 that Jesus came so that we could have life and have it more abundantly. U-Turn was designed to share the love of Jesus with the community in a non-threatening and non-condemning environment, and then through the witness and testimony of those who have made a U-turn in their life that can speak it and live it before others, and can cause those who live in the shackles of addiction to see it and want the abundance for their own life, knowing that those people were once like them and worse. In fact, the U-turn theme verse is 2 Chronicles 5:17, which states, therefore, 2 Corinthians, therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. That's where the true U-turn takes place in a person's life. It's eternal with or without drug or alcohol addiction. Any other way is only temporary and short-lived. Having the event in the springtime also symbolizes the newness of life all around us. U-turn is making a difference in the life of others. There are many others in Putnam County and surrounding areas who have turned their lives around and are now living a clean and sober and happy and healthy life. My daughter, Shanna Case and Ruiz, who will co-MC this year's U-turn event, is one of them. She lost everything, including her then 4-year-old son. She made a U-turn in her life and got it all back and more, including an awesome job, a college degree, a husband, a home, and her son, who is now 9 years old. And my wife and I will be blessed with another grandchild, as Shanna is expecting and will deliver in September. Another young lady who wanted to be here this morning, Melissa Ray, is another one who has an awesome U-turn story to tell. She turned her life around and has overcome extreme adversity, and her husband Jeremy have really stuck with the stuff and have been dedicated to the local Celebrate Recovery group that they started. If you've never heard Melissa's story, you need to hear it. And lastly, I want to thank all of you, the Board of County Commissioners, not just for your support, but for the kindness that you've shown since the inception of U-Turn. We have always received your moral support, but for many of you, we've also received your personal financial support, your time, and even your prayers. I know that on the current commission, we've had Commissioner Nancy Harris come to the U-Turn event and present the proclamation, as well as Commissioner Chairman Chip Leibel, and especially Commissioner Carl Flagg, who presented the proclamation last year as a commission chairman and has also participated with U-Turn on several occasions and was also our special keynote speaker at U-Turn 2014. It takes a community to come together to reach the community through community outreach. U-Turn stands on a foundation of Christianity, where Christians and community come together for good. We are so thankful for you and the business and churches and the fellow citizens that help us continue reaching out to the community and letting them know that we care about them and there's a hope and a future for them that is free from the bondage of addiction. Everyone benefits when someone who is headed down a path of destruction makes a U-turn in their life. On behalf of U-Turn and these that stand with me, we thank you and God bless you.
Mr. Kaysen, thank you very much. Mr. Harvey, thank you very much. And let's have a round of applause for their personal and collective victories. Your group started this just a few years ago, and it was, of course, much needed in our community. I just admire the milestones you've reached and where you're going with this, and it couldn't come quicker.
That's
and
right.
Congratulations. And we have some other comments. Commissioner, we'll start with Commissioner Harris.
I'm pleased to hear at your growth and your successes, and it's amazing that you started with one church and now you have 8. Is that
9.
it? 9.
Yes.
And it's just growing and successful and such an important thing in our community.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am.
I'm sure public officials, law enforcement, and all appreciate and applaud the testimonials of the transformation of lives in our community. Thank you.
Casey, the work you do and the good works that your organization does, is the value is immeasurable for what it does for those families that are in need, and that the devastating effects that drugs and alcohol have on people in our community, and it's you're to be commended. Thank you.
Casey, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would like for you to though, take a moment, if you don't mind. Teen Challenge seems to be a misleading words, if you will. It's not just for teens. It's for anybody of any age group that would like to get their life turned around. And
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, it holds a 98% recovery status of something. So it's
I think it's 86. but
it's high.
It's still way higher than
Yeah,
anything else.
than most programs. So
Right.
they're committed when they go to Teen Challenge. And,
That's right.
and I want to thank you and Mr. Harvey and your staff for all the hard work you do. And anything we can do to help, please, we're one phone call away. And I commend Commissioner Flagg for the work that he did to get that thing up and running for that short period of time.
Yes.
I know it's difficult to get through the weeds sometimes,
Right,
but
that's right.
that's what we're here for. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
And a shout out for the day. It is actually a lot of fun to go to this event.
Yes,
it
it
really
is.
is. And
Right.
you will not go away hungry. There's somebody
that's right.
handing you food at every corner, but we appreciate that. And the young people looking up too. There are a lot of little pictures
Right.
seeing the correct stuff.
Well, we call it a fun day about a serious matter. And there was a lady that had posted that her granddaughter, she was asking her, the things that she looked forward to. And she told her Christmas, Easter, and U-turn. So,
Boy, that's a compliment, a strong compliment. See those little pictures. They're seeing it.
well, it's some of the things that we have if kids go to the fair or somewhere like that, it costs them $5 or $10 to be able to do a rock climbing wall or ride one of those trains or something like that, and it's all free. And all of the Teen Challenge girls come ahead of time, and they go throughout the community, and they get with Aaron Robinson and go through all the housing areas, and they distribute the little cards, inviting everybody, and so it just gives kids the opportunity that may
Fabulous
not
event.
otherwise have it.
We thank you, Mr. Casey.
Thank you.
Mr. Harvey,
God
y'all have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, we're on to public comment. I have a couple blue cards that are specific to the consent agenda. So now, if you'll hold, we'll take the general comment starting right now. Anybody there? No public comment? We'll move. Well, you're Pacific, Ms. Sparkman, and John, if you have something general, and Mr. Haven, you have Pacific. Okay.
Morning, John Spells, 106 Citrus Lane. I know y'all will probably bring it up after I leave, but I ain't gonna wait around here all day. But I got some issues with this here landfill ordeal on, the citizens, was supposed to have been having to pay. And I've noticed throughout the county and some of the areas I travel, due to that fact, I'm starting to see more and more garbage dumped. I went out to one place in Barton, looked like somebody done started dumping car tires on somebody else's property right there on 17. If you've seen it, Chip, you see them old sofas on the side of 17. But you see, y'all need to allow the people to bring it. I was at code enforcement the other day, and it was two old ladies come in there. They was somewhere out there in Hawthorne area. Somebody had come and dumped a lot of debris on her property. She came to code enforcement to be told she would have to take it up with the sheriff department. But I feel like if you let the people that are able to bring the debris out there and dispose of it, we'll have less of a problem rather than trying to get more money out of them. And to my knowledge, do the county not allow other counties to bring garbage in as far as disposing, but they have to pay?
Not at this time.
But are y'all going to start allowing them to do it?
We would need to help, and that helps set our solid waste assessment lower, and we can lower it every year.
But what it actually create is the citizens that's already paying garbage fee. It really takes a lot of the volume of their space of them paying, and as you go through the changes of improving and all of that there, you're actually really cheating the taxpayers. Like I say, I don't even put garbage along the road, but I'm paying a garbage fee. But if I choose to take something out there and have to pay again, I feel like, it's unfair to me.
If you take something outside of the scope of household garbage, there has been a fee associated with it. But if you could stick around today, you're going to find relief if it's successful in that area.
But what I'm saying in the long run is creating problems to other people that got property that actually don't stay around there. You got people starting to go and dump garbage on their property. And if y'all come by with code enforcement and see all of that, then you're going to go to the property owner. So you're actually creating a problem with people dumping garbage on other people's property.
We'll always be combating litter bugs. It's been with us and it will stay with us, but we do a pretty good job with the crew. We just got a new truck for them in their trailer. They go out and they take care of these things.
So if I put it out along the road, they're gonna come out and pick it up for me?
Yeah, well, not for you, and you shouldn't do that, because if you're caught, you're gonna have to pay a hefty fine.
But what I'm saying, if I put it out along the road in front of my street, would they come by and pick it up?
You need to get with Mr. Gass. I don't know what you're putting out or anything else. Other than Class 1 household garbage is what your contract scope deals with. If you put something else out there, they won't pick it up, most likely.
So in other words, now I still couldn't just take my own personal stuff out there with my dump trailer and just dump it out there to the landfill?
You can.
I just find that unfair.
No, you can go dump it.
You can without a fee?
Without a fee for a resident, right?
You need to tell Mr. Gass he can answer those questions privately as to what you're
Okay, because I got a lot I need to bring out,
We've been
but I
working
don't
real
want to have
hard,
to pay twice.
Mr. Spells, on this landfill deal, but at the end of the day, it has to pay its bills. It was grossly inadequate in that area in past years, and we are there. We're able to get it to a even level where it's paying for itself, and as it does better, the relief will come back down to the constituents in the county. We don't like the high fees either,
Chairman?
but we have to do this.
It's item 8 on the agenda.
Yes.
I understand that.
Well,
I
once
ain't
you
gonna
stick
stay
it,
that
sure
long.
is.
I just want to get my point across ahead of time. But my thing of it is, I feel like I'm not sending nothing out there, but yet you're taking my money. But then when I do decide to take something out there, then you want to charge me again. That's what I'm trying to
If
bring
it's
to your
outside the
attention.
scope of the contract, you will be charged additionally, but maybe not after today. So won't you stick around, and we're gonna go into this conversation a little bit on down the agenda here.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Public comment? Yes.
Rick Haven, 115 Dowda Circle, Crescent City. I put on that comment card that I had a question. The security outside the door, first question is, was that requested by the board?
We've had concerns, yes. We had a concerned citizen that was, went to the sheriff's department with a deep concern, and the sheriff's department requested that we step up our security here.
Okay. All of us have to unload our pockets and get one. Do all of you have to? And
Not
why
sure.
not?
Yeah. Well, starting, I don't know how long, Mr. Leary, we're gonna have a machine out front and everybody will be subject to walk through it. Mainly, Rick, because we get here way before you do in the morning, or them. If they wanna wand us, come on. That's fine, if you're
Okay.
alluding to something there.
I looked up the state statute, statute 790.6. Those of us that do have permits to carry are aware of this, and there are 8 instances where you cannot carry. Number 1 is a place of public nuisance, and this place might be considered one of them. But it clearly says in number 7, a meeting of the government body of the county, public schools, municipality, or special districts. And we all know that. So I curtail a lot of my flying because I don't like to go through all that stuff. I think it's ridiculous when some woman in a burqa gets to walk right on through. So that's what I'm seeing here. It's a little uneven. We have to, you don't. So, thank
We
you.
didn't say we didn't.
Okay.
At all, you know. And we're familiar with the statutes. But thank you. Okay, anybody else? Public comment. Yes, sir. Come on. You have to come to the podium, sir. What's that, sir? No, you can come to the podium. You just need to state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Vernon Duso. I live at 17 David Avenue in Lock and Lakes Estates.
Good morning,
Larry
sir.
Harvard knows me real well.
I do, sir.
All right.
Got a couple things I'd like to say. I was 20 years with the volunteer fire department. I was 17 years as a crossing guard, and my wife was too. And what I'm getting upset about is the people out there don't care how they drive, how they pass you on a double yellow line. It's getting terrible. Somebody's gonna get killed if they don't slow down. Yesterday, a motorcycle passed me. He had to be doing at least 90 miles an hour. Some other things is, the guys that's grading these roads, which I did years ago, they're leaving, and as they come out to the blacktop, dirt this high, all over the blacktop. That's not doing us any good. We're paying more money for clay to get back in there. And they're cutting it too deep. Web Realty, I was working with them. We started a new pattern. Instead of having a pile of dirt this high, we cut it down to maybe something like this. And when you get that done, you go out, you put your blade straight, lift it up about that much, and spread it out in the middle. So it got a chance to run off. You go out there, your middle is down, them roads gets a rain, they tear it all up. I hate to say that they're don't know. I even talked to how we did it back then. He says, no, you gotta have more dirt in that. Every time they dig that dirt up, that makes it that much work. And got another question for you. Everybody complains about these guns killing people. It ain't the guns killing people, it's the person that pulls the trigger. And if they put more thought into that instead of the guns, maybe something would be better. And I'd like to thank you all, and thank you, Larry. And
Thank you for being here this morning, sir.
I'm a World War II vet. I can't walk too good, but I still go.
All right.
Thank
You're
you.
doing
Thank
good.
you. Thank you for your service.
That's great. Anybody else, public comment? Yes. Larry, are you familiar with the roads this
Yes,
gentleman speak
yes,
about? Yeah,
We've addressed them this morning.
okay. You can help him with that
Yes,
crowning.
sir.
Janet Smith, 60 Carefree Drive in Wielaka. I didn't hear an exact answer to Mr. Haven's question, and I would like to know, are you guys going through the scanners? This is not something you have to research, just please, yes or no.
We don't have a scanner yet. We have a wand, and if you read the sign, Mrs. Smith, out there, it says you're subject to a search or scanning at this.
That still doesn't answer my question. Are you being scanned?
Nobody scanned me yet, if you want a direct answer.
Has anyone up there been scanned?
I offered myself
Anyone?
and it didn't happen. Russ.
We have 3.
Okay?
My point is this. What rules are set for the people are set for you guys too.
Okay,
This
I
doesn't
agree.
set a good precedent.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's trying to get out of a scan. I just gave you a little niche that we get here before everybody else. And I'm sorry, when you get here, if you announce, I'll walk out there and go through the scanner for you. No problem.
Okay, I think that's
whatsoever.
only fair. If the people have to do it, you guys have
Yeah,
to do it.
not a
That's all
problem.
I'm saying.
We can do that.
The other question I have is, I believe Mr. Castleberry retired last June. Was that correct?
No, he is not retired yet.
This Thursday.
Yes.
This Thursday. Well, I'm curious, when all the years we've had one attorney, I'm sure Mr. Manning is very qualified to do the job. We're talking about, we've got to watch how much we're charging the people taking their garbage out and extra fees for them, because everything has to pay for itself. But I'm looking and I don't understand why we're paying 2 attorneys.
Well,
when I'm
there's
sure Mr. Manning can do his
unfinished
job.
business of a very serious nature that takes a local teaching a newcomer to be familiarized with this kind of stuff, and it takes some time.
There's a transition.
If you would like to go over and visit with them, I'm sure they can show you the whole scope of work, that would make you feel better.
Well, it just seems like a lot of money
It
being
would, but
spent.
I can promise you, it was necessary.
If Mr. Castleberry had walked out the door and just thrown Mr. Manning in the pit, he'd been like throwing him to the wolves.
And it would cost you more money as a taxpayer. Anybody else, public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to consent agenda.
Chairman.
Commissioners, yes?
I have no issues with any of the items on the consent agenda, but I do request that we have opportunity for presentation on D, N, and O.
D and O.
Those are the same I had, Mr. Black.
Okay, any others outside of that request?
I am loud.
Give us just a minute. Yes. I have you. I'll call you up at an appropriate time.
She said she just had public input, so
Okay.
she want to come now.
All right, let's take a minute. And anything else? Commissioner Harris? Mr. Pelsier? Okay, let's pull out. I need to get these specific. Give me just a minute where I can get mine ready. Okay, and then we have 62 through 75.
Who's phone?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
was the request to pull these items or just have discussion? on them?
Discuss them.
Pull 'em.
Okay.
We're gonna pull them. It's the same thing, isn't it?
I'm able to do so, right?
It's not the same thing?
No.
No, pulling them mean that we're pulling them because we have issues with them. My request is simply for some specificity prior to us adopting the consent agenda. So my request is basically for Public Works on 2 of them, the D and the N, and Emergency Services or Administration on O, mainly for the record and for the benefit of public information exchange, but not for any other reason.
Mr. Castleberry, what order should I treat this in then, considering his request?
Unless there's a request to pull them, you should discuss item D, then item O, and then
D and O,
action accord.
and then take.
Excuse me?
And summon for a motion after that for the whole consent agenda. Okay, sir, I have
Mr.
it.
Chairman, I'd like to pull item O, though. Okay, because I do want some clarity and I want discussion.
Okay, O has been officially called. we'll bring D up for discussion. If we can get the Public Works. Mr. Nimitz, how are you this morning? All right, very good, thank you.
Mike Nimitz, interim Public Works Director. For item D here, the Public Works Department requests the board's approval and chairman's signature on FDOT Transportational Regional Incentive Program Supplemental Agreement Number 1 in the additional amount of $920,000 for the widening of County Road 216. Our original agreement with FDOT was for $780,000 for the resurfacing of County Road 216. This additional grant of $920,000 will also allow widening for safety purposes. As you all are aware, we have been working with Georgia Pacific. We initially had the $780,000 grant. We got a limited amount of work able to be done with that. FDOT has increased the funding, and we have a workshop this afternoon on how we'd like to apply that additional funding. We're up to a total of $1.7 million. So we're hoping to get the majority of the safety improvements included under that funding right there.
Yeah, and Commissioners, as you well know, in our transportation workshop last month, we had officials from Georgia Pacific come and discuss their challenges with this road, and particularly with the large semis and this sort of thing. And I want to congratulate you, Mr. Nimitz, and your department for finding this additional money and asking for it and keeping our corporate partners locally happy, and of course the safety for all our citizens as well as the corporate entity in that area. But good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Commissioners, any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you know, this isn't just a mill road. This is our infrastructure road for our ports. This moves goods and services from 17 over to 100, you know, through our port system. And so it's not just to help out Georgia Pacific's paper mill. This is to help out all of Putnam County move goods and services to help benefit our economy. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anything
Mr.
else?
Harris. Oh,
Well, I think it's a good thing too. We couldn't four-lane it, but we can widen it so there's a turn lane. So when the trucks come down, they actually have a way to pull off and to turn, and it keeps traffic flowing. And anytime we can do something to help some of any of our employers, we should. And thank you for your efforts, and we all appreciate that. It needed to be done.
All right. Thank you, Commissioners.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Nimitz, for being here today.
He's on the next one, too.
You're what?
He's on the next one.
Okay, Mr. Nimitz, you better stay up here. You're on the next one. We're going down for the, which on O?
N.
No.
N.
Moving to E.
N.
What he called in.
Nobody called it.
Carl did.
Yeah, Carl
I
did.
said D. I said D N O. I didn't say D and O. I said D N.
Well, you have to admit, that's a little misleading, Commissioner Flagg.
I'm sorry.
For consent agenda item E, the Public Works Department requests board approval of a portion of parcel 3 for 2nd Street in Melrose, and the
N.
approval of accompanying resolution.
No,
This-
No.
N.
The N is throwing everybody off. It sounds like and.
Page 58.
Okay, so we're going to
LMNO.
item N.
Page 62 through 75 in the packet, Mr. Nimitz.
Okay.
If you need a minute, we'll.
58.
Through
N is in
61.
Nimitz.
Oh,
okay.
good Lord. Okay,
For some
58
reason I
through
got
61.
letter E mixed in there.
N is in Nancy there.
Commissioner Flagg, why don't you just take the item and outline it here for us?
Public Works Addendum Number 1 to Continuing Services Agreement with CHW Professional, 44,000. Engineering Services for roadway drainage improvements on West Palmetto Street.
Yes, that is correct. That is for the stormwater system that has been failing, that we had cambered several months ago. We determined that complete replacement was necessary, or the issues would continue to exacerbate with the sinking of the road and additional asphalt having to be added. We received a figure, $44,000 from the designer. Our estimates in construction are around $400 to $500,000 to do the actual repair. So we would like to get consent to engage them with this design and to move forward.
I just wanted it to be drilled down on, presented.
Yes,
I don't have any questions about it.
Well, while we're on it, are they leaning towards, the inverted road or crowning it when you say
The
they're gonna
inverted
start?
road, again, is what we're looking at.
What will be different about this one?
Quality assurance and quality control.
Is that right?
Yes. At least that's what the
I'm sorry,
camera
but it-
investigation, it indicated, that's what a lot of the issues were and a lot of the settlement and things of that nature.
And the new design will eliminate that flaw?
Yes, sir, it should eliminate it as well as the practices, monitoring the work, requiring the additional testing, everything of that nature.
A little concerned about it, Commissioner Fly.
Yes, sir.
The last one
Isn't
didn't
this
work.
one we discussed that there was a breakdown in
Yes.
the piping and y'all had sent the camera down there and all that? Yeah.
That's
I
correct.
remember
There's
that.
been some unexpected settlement of the pipes and things
And
of
the
that
reason
nature.
we can't build it traditionally with a crown is because of right-of-way limitations
Yes, that and cost.
and the cost. Okay.
It's going there, it's better to leave basically what we've got, just put
Work with
better
what we
piping
have,
underneath.
yes, sir.
Well, again, it would be different if there were various sections to fill. The length of the project is a failure. Now, again, we do understand how many years ago that has been, but it's clear that there were QA issues back then. And we certainly do not want history to be repeated, is what I think Mr. Chairman is saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So are we looking for the resolution, drilling down on what the chairman is saying? Are we looking for the resolution to do what we did and just have the QA in place and think that it's going to work? Or should we be looking at the crown as an option in spite of the cost?
Again, even if you were to go the crown route, it all comes down to your quality assurance on site. If you do not have the quality assurance and quality control program in place, I don't care what your design is, it has a strong potential to fail.
That's
and
very
present
true.
future issues.
But we
So-
do have a model that works. Twig Street West, right behind the complex here, it's been in existence a long time, and far as I know, there's been no problems with it. So whatever was designed and constructed there, we need to mimic.
Okay.
No fun attending Mr. Nimitz. I sound like Carl Flagg now, don't I?
That's scary.
Okay. Is that good, sir? All right, thank you, Mr. Nimitz.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I might at this point suggest two things. Since O was pulled, that there be a motion and vote on the rest of the consent agenda item, except for O, which would be separate
Chairman.
discussion and vote. However, before doing that, I think Ms. Sparkman was requesting to speak. I don't know if it was on any of these items that are subject to vote on this initial consent, but you might.
It's not, sir. It's at another point in the agenda.
Okay. Is that correct?
I think. Give me
I thought I heard something other,
what I-
different. Oh, okay.
Give me just a moment.
Okay, I thought if she had something, she wanted to speak on the consent agenda, it would be appropriate before the vote, that's all.
Mr. Chairman, I think she's saying that her issues is just with the public comment and not specific to any agenda item.
Why don't you come forward, Mrs. Sparkman, let's address this. On your speaker card, you have questions on the volunteer fire station 4, and I would assume it's the dormitory request.
What I wanted to do was tell you thank you for security. There's a lot of people sitting out here that feel really good about that right now.
Good.
The next thing is, 2 weeks ago, I forgot to mention when I said thank you to the Domino's and Interlock, and also Backwoods Barbecue donated coolers of water and ice to the firefighters that were out there. So my question is there any kind of a proclamation or paper that you can give Domino's and Backwoods Barbecue with all of your signatures on it, tell them thank you? And then the next thing is on April the 4th, our next speakers will be Mr. Harvey Banks for County Commissioner District 1, Mary Kay for County Commissioner District 5,
Bill Pickens Jr. for County Commissioner District 1, and Tommy Stillwell for County Commissioner District 3. They're all booked at 7 o'clock on April the 4th. We do not endorse anybody. They come, they speak, we get to know people from all over the county. Everybody's invited. Anybody that would like to speak, all they have to do is let one of us know, and we'll put you on an agenda. And I guess my other question would be, is there some way we can thank Domino's and Backwoods?
Yes, I'm going to turn to my colleague, Commissioner Harvey. Can you, if you come up with a thank you, which
Maybe a certificate of appreciation.
yeah, and we'll all sign it and get that to them. Sure.
Okay. The other good thing I have to tell you is, we have one of the best tuggers in the county, and that's Tim Smith. But Carl Fagg told me no, that he trained him, so I don't know who's telling me the truth.
Ms. Sparkman, before you go, at that particular forum, if Commissioner Flagg and I are both there, you can't ask us certain questions about things because it could be a violation of the
But
Sunshine
you could
Law.
always ask to come to a meeting, and he's not there.
Well, that's true.
Anyway, I'll
But
give.
you pretty well said they were all coming on one date, and I
Okay,
thought that
well,
was the
just let me
invitation.
know when you want to come, but I'll give you a copy of what we put out. That way you'll know. That's what we put out all over Interlochen.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if you can make copies of that for the benefit of all, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda from A through N.
Okay. Motion on the floor. Any further
Second.
discussion? We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next, item O, 62 through 75, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a few questions, and I just flat ran out of time to get here yesterday. I had my orientation at Northeast Florida Regional Planning Council. May I address the attorney, Mr. Manning? On the summary highlights of agenda item here, it says on line 3 under approved on 12/10/13 for 3 years with an option to extend for an additional 3. My question to you is, are we approving the design of some dormitories and extending Mr. Taylor's contract for an additional 3 years?
No.
Or is this just, because I don't know why it would be written in there, testing out another 3 years if we're not doing that?
I'll have to look at this specifically.
That's not what's being asked. It's just information.
Scott Monisett.
I'm not seeing where there's a extension in the addendum number 6.
Mr. Chairman.
That was just for information because that's what the original RFQ provided for back in 2013.
Okay. That's my only question, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't doing two things at one time, so.
You want to offer a motion?
I will, sir. I move item number O on the consent agenda for approval.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. The reason I requested this was because I wanted to deal with the fact that a design for the dormitory building for the volunteer fire department, there's a lot of rumors that go out when it comes down to what's happening in volunteerism within fire departments throughout the county. And I thought it was an opportunity just to be able to say what was happening. My issue was not related to Mr. Taylor's design services, as you know, again, for consultants, but it was more related to the fact that there are a lot of rumors and a lot of misinformation continues to go throughout our county about what the county is doing or what the county isn't doing as it relates to volunteer fire departments. There have been references to what's happening in what has happened in St. Johns County, what has happened in Clay County, and so forth and so on. And there are some individuals who seem to specialize in looking through their crystal ball and through their telescope to tell the community what's happening within volunteer fire departments. And for whatever reason, some people believe it as if it was something that was passed by this board. There is nothing, to my knowledge, that's going on that would indicate the county is taking over volunteer fire departments in any movement in that direction. We are strengthening the partnership that we have with professionals and volunteers. And when there is a fire, the fire doesn't care whether you are a volunteer, whether you are a part-timer, whether you are a professional paid. We need competency and quality and excellence operating there, and we have that. But there is a group that wants to divide and conquer within our county, and we just need to deal with it. And I didn't want this issue on consent to be silently moved forward without at least making mention of the scope of what's happening at this particular VFD.
Yes. Mr. Leary?
Well, and to that end, let me just express the fact that this particular item is just simply a step in the process of satisfying the board's objective for establishing service, 24/7 service for fire protection in the 3 geographic zones that we discussed during budget deliberations last year. And this lends itself to just a little bit of a typographical error in the agenda. This is not a dormitory building for the Satsuma Volunteer Fire Department. This is actually a dormitory building for those firefighters and EMS service for the county. This building will be located in close proximity to the existing Satsuma Volunteer Fire Department. And while the negotiations between the county and the Satsuma Volunteer Fire Department have not proceeded quite with the progress that I would personally have liked, we have at least worked our way through those issues to this point and are proceeding with some work in the Satsuma Volunteer Fire Department that is being undertaken by the department itself. And that department building will essentially have the day room and the kitchen and the office areas. And of course, that department building, it does not lend itself to providing the sleeping quarters, which is where the dormitory building comes into play. So there'll be a small, much smaller facility that will be the dormitory building, and the shower facilities or the restroom facilities housing the firefighters and the EMS personnel, which are currently housed in a trailer that will be removed, and then all of those people will be housed in that one facility, and then the ownership of the volunteer fire department building will ultimately be transferred to the county. So this step is being taken to engage Mr. Taylor so that he can come up with the most cost-efficient type of facility that will ultimately be constructed there.
Any questions, any comments, questions?
Second the motion.
All right, we have a second to the motion. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign, it carries. Thank you for that discussion, Mr. Flagg.
Thank you.
Mr. Harvey. Okay, next on the agenda, we have our friend here, Scott Modisette. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I am Scott Modisette with Summit Professional Services. I'm here today to give you an update on the Community Development Block Grant Housing Rehabilitation Program, including a status report, and also to present to you our initial applicant ranking list. We conducted a homeowners meeting on January 19th. Following that meeting, we received a request for over 100 homeowner applications from citizens in the county. 34 homeowner applications were received and reviewed, of which 12 did not qualify for the program. We had 3 applicants who submitted who were above the income threshold and were not eligible. We also had 9 applicants who were unable to provide all of the required documentation by the March 4th deadline. We did receive a remaining 22 applications which were scored and ranked objectively and impartially utilizing the Appendix A of the county's adopted Standard Housing Assistance Plan. I've got a copy of that in your agenda package to show you how that scoring works out. The CDBG budget for housing rehabilitation and demolition replacement is $622,500 $500, and we also have $15,000 available for temporary relocation if an individual homeowner is required to move during construction. It provides a nominal moving allowance and also some storage money for their personal belongings. The obligation under the grant, we're required to complete at least 11 low-income occupied housing units. That means that the occupants are below 80% of the median area income for Putnam County. We are required to complete those housing units by December 1st, 2017. That's the expiration date of the grant award. And we are also required to keep the average CDBG housing unit cost below $57,995. As a requirement of the program, the first two ranked applicants who qualify as extremely low income, that's below 30% of the median area income, are selected, and we're also required to do three very low income. Those are individuals who are below 50% of the median area income for the county. We have to do those first. We will then continue to move down the ranking list in order to serve the other applicants. And I provided the income limits for the county just to give you an idea of who is eligible and what those numbers are. In addition, Putnam County has dedicated $50,000 in your State Housing Initiative Partnership Program funds to also assist homeowners under this program. Those will be combined with the Community Development Block Grant dollars. Mobile home and manufactured homes are ineligible for that, for the SHIP program, and also we can only assist extremely low and very low income homeowners. So we're gonna have to have a balancing act to make sure we're utilizing those CDBG dollars in conjunction with the SHIP dollars and make sure they're targeted towards site-built homes rather than manufactured homes. We will begin a environmental assessment on the homes on the top 15 eligible housing units. That includes a historical review for units over 50 years or older. Any homes built prior to 1978 will require a lead-based paint inspection. We're required to also do a tribal consultation. There's some Indian tribes that were historically located in this area. We're just supposed to provide the locations of the homes that will be remodeled, and they'll let us know if they have any concerns regarding archaeological finds during the project implementation. And each property will be required to have no non-structural code violations, so we'll be coordinating with your building department to make sure that's in compliance. Housing inspections on the units are scheduled to begin within the next 2 weeks. As part of the applicant process in the application that the homeowner completes, there's a section where they are required to identify any conflicts of interest they may have. That's where they would notify the county of any employees that they may be related to or any elected officials. I've provided the different classifications that the state uses to identify or define family relatives. So those are all listed there. We've received one potential conflict of interest from an applicant, Jesse Masters, who is an applicant who's been deemed eligible for the program. Her sister, Denise Bartis, is an employee of the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. We have a process that we go through to waive that conflict of interest. Generally, this type of conflict of interest, and she's not involved at all in the selection of the applicants and has no authority over who receives any funds. She's qualified for the program. Today, I'm publicly disclosing that there is a conflict of interest there, or potential conflict of interest. We'll go through a waiver process with the Department of Economic Opportunity, and typically those types of public interest or conflicts of interest are waived without any conditions.
Mr. Monisette, everything
Yes, sir.
locally here, though, has been satisfied?
Yes, sir.
With this conflict?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Everything else, she meets the income requirement. She's actually one of our extremely low income applicants, and she meets all the other requirements. She has title to her home, and we verified all the information provided in our application. We are soliciting local contractors in the area to work. We're also soliciting minority contractors. Announcements will be posted as well at the Putnam County Building Department. These contracts go out, there's a bidding process. Local contractors can complete a qualifying application where we review their references, their licenses and insurance to determine that they're qualified to bid on the program, and they are pre-qualified. Once the homes are inspected and a scope of work is developed, The projects will be bid to those pre-qualified contractors who will all submit sealed closed bids, blind bids on each project against each other, and the lowest bidder would be accepted for that. So these grant funds, not only are they helping low-income homeowners in the area who need assistance with their homes, it also provides a source of income for local contractors for work. We are also going through a solicitation of lead-based paint inspectors for any homes that are older than 1978, that a lead-based paint inspection would be required. So today, the first thing I'm asking, if there are no questions from the commission or from the public.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Ms.
Okay, thanks. On page 83, where you've listed the applicants, it says year built in county zoning, and it has the year, and it has an MH.
Right.
And it has R2 as the zoning. What is the MH for? Is it mobile
That
home?
identifies if it's a mobile home.
I thought you said we could not do this with mobile
He
homes.
did. He didn't, you didn't mean to say that.
Under the SHIP program.
Right.
The Community Development Block Grant Program does allow manufactured and mobile homes to be
Okay.
assisted. Your SHIP program, your State Housing Initiative Partnership Program, does not. So any mobile homes or manufactured homes will be assisted solely with CDBG funds. We can't
Okay.
intermingle the CDBG for mobile.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am.
I was afraid we were in trouble with our list.
No, and that's what I meant, we've kind of got a balancing act, because we are required to spend the funds with the CDBG funds, but we're having to, at the same time, exclude any mobile homes from utilizing SHIP funds. So we'll be targeting the SHIP funds, and CDBG will solely be going to single-family site-built homes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. Mr. Modisette?
Yes, sir.
Again, on page 83 and 84, I'm not going to call the names out, but on person number 4, it says previously SHIP assistance, yes. And down to 21 and 22, the same comment. There's more than one bite at the apple, is my question to you. So would you kind of walk me through the process of how, they've received assistance before, but was it not enough? Was the home deteriorated since then, or what happened?
For those homes, I believe we designate those homes, I think you have a 15-year requirement on your SHIP funds. So we also look to see if they previously received SHIP funds, and they are excluded from the program from using SHIP funds for that project as well. Some of these have been done many, many years ago before our participation. So what we look at is just whether or not they are within the eligibility date from their previous SHIP assistance to see if we can assist them with SHIP funds.
Okay. One other question on number 19. We awarded that one last Board of County Commission meeting to the tune of $30,000. So why is it showing up on this list again? Isn't that I believe we did we, Mr. Mayor?
You did act on that one, and Mr. Modisette may not have had that information. That's probably new information for him.
I did not. And she's actually outside of our range of assistance at this time. For this list, we're only going to be inspecting the first 15.
Okay.
And then we'll be moving down. She is an ELI.
But we've already awarded her at the last.
And she was awarded with SHIP funds?
That was SHIP, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's different than Mr. Monissette's. Although they're commingled, but again, that little caveat will catch you.
So we're only going to fund 1 through 15. Is that what we're discussing today?
Yes, sir. We're going to do the first 2 applicants that are extremely low income,
I see that.
which are number 2 and number 14. And then we will also be doing the next 3 that are very low income.
Is that the ELI 30%?
Yes, sir.
Because there's quite a few 30% here. There's 4 on that first page. On page 83.
I've only got
number 1 and 2, and number 14 and 15.
Okay, 3, yes, and we'll be doing the first 2. We're not just looking at income.
Okay.
A part of your grant commitment, we're required to do 2 extremely low income and also 3 very low income. Your points in your housing assistance plan also specify if the individual is over the age of 65 and if they have a handicap, they receive priority as well. So some homeowners may be 50% income qualified and also have a disability and be a senior citizen, so they rank higher. So we try to do the highest ranked applicants first, but as part of your grant commitment, we're required to do 2 extremely low income. So we pull those out
Okay.
to meet that commitment.
But they do fall in the 15 that we're going to be reviewing today,
Yes, yes, sir.
regardless whether they, okay, I'm with you now. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And we don't know at this time whether they're going to be demolition replacements or what the requirement's going to be. We kind of have a general idea, but until we get in and really do an inspection of the homes, and the funds are limited. Some homes, we'll only spend $10,000 or $12,000 on. Some homes that require a complete demolition replacement can cost $65,000, $70,000. So the funds vary depending on which house we can do. As we move down our list, if we have a lot of rehabs and that are not very expensive, we can continue to do more homes with the funds if the costs are low.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to tell you and the board that I've reviewed the listing of the 22 CDBG applicants, and I have no disclosures concerning any conflict of interest.
Okay, and I'll ask the same from each of you commissioners. I'll disclose I have the same status as Commissioner Flagg.
I have none. Yeah.
I have none.
Regrettably, I don't think I know anyone on that list.
That's hard, Mr. Monisset, in a small county sometimes, but amazingly, we got through this one.
Mr. Chairman, I also would like to make a motion to waive the conflict of interest for the applicant, Jessie Masters, and submit, but she has submitted the conflict waiver there to DEO, but I make a motion that we approve submitting her conflict of interest.
Second.
If I could just clarify that it is also a submission by this board requesting that the conflict, or the waiver of the conflict, so that should be part of the motion.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And Mr. Monisset, you'll take it out for the rest of its.
Okay. The last action I would request of the commission is to adopt the attached applicant ranking list dated March 22nd, 2016 for the county's federal fiscal year 2014 CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Program.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It has it. And
Thank
we
you very
sir,
much,
for
Mr.
being here
Chairman.
this
I'll be
morning.
back in the next couple months to give you an update as we move along.
Thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Can we take a 3-minute recess, Mr. Chairman?
Let's do that. So granted, we'll be back in 3 minutes,
I'll set the timer.
10:31.
The timer's running.
Back. Before we move to the next item, Mr. Gast, if you could just wait a moment. I've had during the break a request to revisit item O. And if, Mr. Haven, if you can come to the podium, please, we will do exactly that at this moment. All right, if you could frame your question to not just us, but staff also.
Okay.
And,
During the break, I got a clarification. The item O was a contract with Taylor to design the thing. It wasn't a renewal of his contract at this point. So my second question is, a lot of people in the county figured when we passed when you guys did the fire tax, that we were going to get increased coverage in the area, quicker response times and so forth. And now we're going to build a barracks. So at this point, where is the money coming from to pay Taylor Engineering and build a barracks?
okay, is that the question?
That's the question.
Okay. Mr. Leary?
Within the budget encompassed within the fire tax is appropriation for improved facilities to accommodate the personnel, and that's where the appropriation is coming from. Pay Mr. Taylor.
Okay, we haven't collected a penny yet in the fire tax, and already you're spending money?
It is being collected with the tax bills that were mailed out in November.
I think you may be thinking about the city's new assessment, not the county. Our situation is pre-existing.
All right, so the assumption of people is right, that we all thought we were going to get quicker response times and so on and so forth. You're going to hire professional people to increase our fire protection, and then all of a sudden you're going to use the money to build a barracks, and we had no idea that was going to happen.
It's all within the same budget. Their personnel are provided for within the appropriation, but we have to have facilities to house those personnel.
Do we have any idea what the cost is of building the barracks?
That's what Mr. Taylor will develop a cost estimate, but I think it's probably within the $200,000 range, probably.
All right, that's the construction, then Mr. Taylor gets how much for designing?
Probably 10%.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment. Mr. Haven, you said professional. I agree that all firefighters are professional, either they're volunteers or career. And these are talking about career paid personnel. We do pay our professional volunteers also. And I tell you, the rigorous training they go through, they're professional firefighters also. I just want to make that statement. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, 10 o'clock starting. No, wait, Larry Gass, come on, sir. I had circled you out already. Good morning. I'm really ready to hear what you have to say.
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Spell's already left. That's all.
yeah.
Too bad.
Each of you had constituents that have come to you.
Pull that
about-
mic closer, Mr. Gass. We want
Each
to
of
hear
you
this
have
real
had
good. There you go.
Each of you have had constituents come to you about issues with solid waste disposal for the material that is not covered by the assessment. For 2 workshops, we had looked at setting up an allowance of non-covered material. Of the yard waste that's greater than 4 inches in diameter, and of minor construction demolition projects that a homeowner would be undertaking. And because of that, at the last workshop, we worked around to a yard waste allowance of 4,000 pounds per assessed property of yard waste greater than 4 inches in diameter, and of 2,000 pounds of construction demolition debris material. That would be an annual allotment for each of the assessed residents that are there that would allow them to bring that material in. There's a lot of confusion going on, and I don't know where it keeps coming from. People are still allowed to bring household garbage at no charge. That's furniture, that's, anything that you've got that you clean up around your yard that isn't construction demolition debris. If you tear down a privacy fence, that's construction demolition debris. It's not, something that is out of your normal usage. But this allotment, which would be available at the central landfill, would satisfy a lot of those issues that the citizens are having with their concerns about having to pay. And this should accommodate most of those issues.
Okay.
So
We commend you. Yes.
If I could just clarify that. So we have to take it to central landfill if we have, say we remodeled a bathroom and we have the things we need to discard to the central landfill, and we're allowed 4,000 pounds
4,000 pounds of yard waste greater than 4 inches, or 2,000 pounds of construction
Oh,
demolition.
2,000 of construction debris, thank you. But
Okay.
if we have household garbage, trash, and we forgot to take it to the street in time, we can still take it to the South Putnam and West Putnam.
Yes, you can still
and
take
get
your
rid of it.
household garbage to the convenience centers in Interlochen and Huntington.
And that includes furniture like couches
That
and chairs.
includes furniture, couches, chairs, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One thing I think the people of the county are not familiar with, and I get this constant question, and we're going over it right now, I just want to say it one more time for the record. That garbage disposal fee that you pay yearly is for household garbage removal, disposal, and perpetual care from now on. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, you have yard debris in there too.
Yes.
Every
And
other week?
tires, and, you know, everybody is
5
entitled.
tires a year?
5 tires.
5 tires a year.
Each residence that has an assessment is entitled to dispose of 5 tires a year free of charge.
And we're gonna run a county physical year, not a year from when you dump now in March till next March. It's gonna be September to October,
It'll be October 1st to September 30th.
Yeah.
And how will we track it, Mr. Gass?
At the central landfill, we'll put it on a database, on an Excel spreadsheet, and basically track it from there. When you come in, you'll show your assessment, your identification, and you'll be entered in, and then that will be tracked per that assessment.
So they're going to need to bring some documentation.
Yes. If you're
Their tax.
coming, you know, if you're gonna dispose of stuff for free, they have to bring their driver's license or utility bill and their assessment. A utility bill would be required if you were, say, a renter to an assessed property. If your driver's license and your assessment match, there's no other thing that you need. Generally, we get pretty much the same people. Once they do that, they generally don't have to do it again because they kind of, you know, we get regular customers that once they've provided it, we know that they're legitimate, and it makes it pretty easy. It's not changed. You know, a lot of people think that everything has changed. We have always accepted 5 tires. We have always accepted furniture and household garbage.
I think just the scrutiny at the scales has started some suspicion and rumors thereabout. But I salute you and your staff for continually shaping this process. And it's vitally important that the landfill pay for itself. I mean, we're a small rural landfill, and despite all the hearings and stuff we've gone through the past, that's a very expensive proposal.
Yes,
And
it
I
is.
know it is, and I salute you, Mr. Gass, for trying to, well, for working with us commissioners to, because we represent the constituents that want to have the lowest cost that they possibly can, but in
Absolutely.
turn, we'll go out and explain to them that this has to pay for itself.
And-
It does, if we want to keep our own landfill.
And that's the case. Operating a landfill is a very, very expensive proposition. And
You've done a good job helping us with this.
Mr. Gass, this will also help control the out-of-county dumping that we've experienced for free,
yes.
that to a minimum.
We had been seeing in the Interlochen area, a large amount of, before we started charging construction demolition debris coming in late in the afternoons. And our assumption was that it was coming from out of county, from people who were working out of county, because now that has almost totally disappeared. It's not coming in. They're utilizing the facilities available in the other counties.
Our roadside debris crew that Mr. Spells was concerned with earlier, what have you seen? I know you track their tonnage, and what are those results saying, the hard numbers?
They are actually picking up less material this year than they did last year.
You told us that previously, and so that's holding.
That is still holding.
That's good news. If that changes, we'd like to know.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that might be a little misleading, and I don't mean, because I called one in the other day, and they have to be determined as a illegal dump site. It can't just be, I mean, I could go down the road throwing trash out both sides of my truck, and if it's not considered an illegal dump site, it's not an illegal dump site.
If it's littering,
Right, so
my crew does not pick up littering.
Right.
Public Works has inmate crews that handle the roadside litter pickups.
right, but they only pick up if it's illegal. The word got to me was, we're gonna have to do community cleanup because they just threw trash as they went down the road.
It was just litter is what it was. It
Right.
wasn't somewhere where somebody went in and unloaded
the
a
whole
pickup
load.
truck or unloaded anything like that. We pick up the illegal dump sites.
Right.
Litter is, basically on every road. There's a lot of people out here that don't believe in holding a McDonald's wrapper and cup in their vehicle until they get to a garbage disposal place, whether it's their trash can at home or, I see it constantly on West River Road, where yesterday there's nothing, you go in the next morning and there's McDonald's bags or Burger King bags just laying around, no resident, no anything, just thrown out on the side of the road.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few more questions if you don't mind. Currently, your department is doing a very good job of helping our citizens. They're looking up assessments where they have computer technology at the central landfill.
Yes.
And that's been very helpful. Your card catalog system out there at the central landfill is not really a computer database, it's your card catalog, and you're allowing people to have one free dump. Is this going to replace the one free dump?
What the one free dump, this will replace that.
It will replace it.
Their numbers will be counted into the one free dump. This was a change in the way things were operated, and as part of getting everybody familiar with the way we were operating, we weren't turning anybody away saying, you've got to know what's happening. It was part of our educational process. When people would come in that had yard waste greater than 4 inches, the first time we wouldn't charge them. We'd take their name, we'd take everything, put that down. We'd give them the literature that explained, how it was being charged, and allow them to make that dump for free. They'd already made the trip out to the landfill. We allowed that to happen. Then they were educated. We had the card file that basically said, okay, this person's been notified and told, and that's the way we were tracking that, was basically recording on a Rolodex, a card file for
Card
that.
file. Is there any way for us to give like a little grace period here, like to the 1st of April that says you still got your one free dump, but after that you're going to be, because a lot of people out there at the central landfill has used that one free dump, but I don't know if everybody else has known that, and I think that would be a worthy thing for us commissioners. We've wrestled with this for a long time. And the one free dump is, hey, here's your one free dump. After that, we're going to assess you.
This allotment basically will be a free disposal.
Right, but it counts against them. We're currently, until we pass this, it doesn't count against them. If I was to run out there today, I don't have a one free dump yet on my assessment, so. Okay. I'm still going to advocate that we find a solution for the west and south end. I know we've talked about it. I brought it up at every meeting. I know the board's concerned about it, but we got to find a little solution for those people out there. If we're using a card catalog system, we can use that. The conversation was they didn't have internet. Well, if it's a card catalog, we can find some way. I know it's also about weighing, but they're pretty good out there at determining, even at the central landfill, what weights are. So I would like for us to look at that in the future, but I'll leave that one alone for today. Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to comment on that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the allowance for non-assessed waste coming from the assessed residents in the yard waste greater than 4 inches in diameter, 4,000 pounds, C and D material from small projects undertaken by homeowners at 2,000 pounds.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Mr. Gass, again, thank you.
Thank you.
Your whole staff.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
You gotta come forward.
You gotta come forward. You gotta come forward.
There is a scale at the Huntington landfill. When you drive across, do you get it, it doesn't work?
It is so antiquated you can't even find parts for it.
Oh, okay,
It's, that's why it's non-existent.
okay.
There's, basically, we tried to find something that we could retrofit it with. We couldn't even retrofit, that scale. It basically had to be tore out and redone, and to remove it, you'd then have a big hole that we would have to pour concrete to
Yeah.
fill in, so just leaving the platform and the scale was the cheapest thing for us to do to keep the access to the facility open.
Okay, well, like Mr. Harvey said, that Huntington landfill is 4 miles from my house. I'm not likely to drive all the way out to your house to dump. So if we could find some remedy for that station.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I ask for clarification for the record when the effective date of this new policy is? Is it immediately?
Upon approval, Mr. Chairman,
What it say?
if
Okay.
you need me to make a second motion for,
No, I just wanted to clarify.
okay, I mean, we can do that so that the record reflect that, Mr. Chairman. I would at this time make a.
I think that's redundant.
Well, I want to make sure.
I mean, it would be upon approval. I mean, if
Which is right
if
now.
you want to have discussion about another time period, you certainly.
The understanding is that it's
Prerogative.
like at 10:50
It's
p.m.
game on. You'll notify your people, Mr. Gass, that it's in effect as of now?
Okay, next item on the agenda, 10 o'clock public hearing. We're certainly past that time. Mr. Manning, I will turn the floor to you, sir.
I'm going to ask Mr. Castleberry as his last meeting before this board, if he would like to just make a comment or two on this. He was involved in this matter.
No, thank you. Mr. Chairman, for future reference, you are allowed to jump to a time-certain public hearing. You don't have to take them in chronological order, and that's sort of the reason you have a time-certain public hearing.
We're okay today, though, going
We're
51
okay any
minutes
days,
late.
but just for future reference.
I thank
I
you
was
for that
asked
information.
sometime, excuse me?
I thank you for that information. I didn't know that.
I was asked some time ago to draft an ordinance, after 9/11. There was a new Florida statute passed, 125.5801, that gave specific authorizations for counties to sort of expand their ability to do background checks for personnel in what they call safety-sensitive positions. It includes applicants, volunteers, temporary employees, et cetera. I drafted the ordinance probably a year or so ago. Recently, as people began to realize I was leaving, they asked me what the status of it was, and I said it's done. I'll make sure it's still accurate, and we'll bring it forward. So we are bringing it forward today. It's, like I say, based on 125.5801 Florida statutes. It has been adopted by a lot of other jurisdictions, and it's fairly straightforward. Section 1 says that it's applicants, employees, volunteers, temporary employees, and appointees working in positions that are deemed critical to security or public safety by the board. That's what we call safety-sensitive positions, may be subjected to an employment screening, which includes being fingerprinted and having both a Florida and a federal background investigation done on them. Right now, our current practice, although our personnel policy probably gives us the ability to do a federal check, we haven't been doing that as a routine basis. This ordinance gives us that authority. The ordinance also, in Section 2, directs the Human Resources Director to adopt policies and procedures to make sure that the information that we gather as a result of this ordinance is handled properly and confidentially as the case may be. it is not something that we would be required to do for every applicant. We have had discussions among staff and the county administrator that if someone's, and I will say that one of the problems, we ran into a couple situations in the past, and I believe that they were volunteers, where we had done a Florida background check on them, and somebody pipe in if I say something, Rick or Ann, and that we had done a Florida background check on them, it was clean, and it cropped up later that they had very, very serious criminal charges against them in another state. So that was an example of what this would hopefully try to cover. We had discussions that if somebody had been living in Putnam County for 30 years and everybody knew them, you're probably not going to do that. So it would be discretion with the county administrator and the human resources director as to when it would be applied, and then we would come up with some policies and procedures to make sure it's applied fairly and uniformly, and the information that we gather is treated properly. So that's it. I mean, it's a 2-paragraph. The guts of the ordinance is section 1, and then in section 2, it's about as straightforward as you get. But we're basically saying we are adopting an ordinance authorized by Florida statute so that we can do this in cases where we deem it appropriate.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Leary.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate a couple of points that Mr. Casper made. Number one, this is not a spur of the moment thing. It's just something that as he indicated, he drafted it over a year ago, so it's kind of something we've cogitated on over a period of time. And number two, it is just something, another item, if you will, that we gonna put in a toolbox for HR to utilize when appropriate. It's not something that's gonna be required in each and every instance whenever the county is considering a prospective employee. It is optional. It is not something that's gonna be applied retroactive to personnel already employed who are already volunteering. It's going to be applied moving forward, and there will be policies and procedures put in place. It's not going to necessarily be applied uniformly, and certainly, as Mr. Casper again said, and I think it's worth noting that, you know, if we have a long-time resident of Putnam County who is under consideration for employment or appointment as a volunteer, there's the likelihood of them having a more in-depth background check is remote. But if it's a relative newcomer to the county coming from out of state, the likelihood of that being in the county's best interest and in the citizens' best interest, providing, depending on what position they might be choosing to fill, that might be incumbent upon us to be judicious in exercising a more thorough check.
Well said.
All right. Commissioners? Yes, son. At this point, commissioners, questions or comments to legal or county administrator or to each other?
Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions.
Okay.
Yesterday, Mr. Leary, I sent an email to you. Usually we workshop these things prior to this. And I just didn't understand why this hasn't seen the light of day until today. I'm not against federal background checks. I think anything we can do to protect our citizens is a good thing, but it really didn't get vetted properly. And I would like for us to go back and talk about this at a workshop and bring it back to the table at another date.
Well, it certainly has been vetted by staff, and I mean, I don't think in each and every instance these are workshopped, but I mean, you know, you and I did have a conversation on Friday, and you did not raise any issue about it to me, and so I wasn't aware that you were concerned about it.
Additional questions?
I do. Position deemed critical to the by public safety by the county commission. Do we have those positions that we deem critical? Or we just as a blanket statement? I mean, because we're the ones saying, it's from us that it's deemed critical, but I don't know who's deemed critical here.
That will be part of the policies and procedures we adopt. Safety-sensitive positions is sort of a term of art in the human resources and the labor world. Ms. Allen could expand on that, but my concept here would be that would be part of the policies and procedures, that we would list those job titles that are deemed safety and have that approved by the board, because the ordinance does say it has to be deemed so by the county commission. Now, we could change that to say deemed so by the county administrator, but as it's written now, it would require the board to designate what is a safety-sensitive position. But I think it would be a relatively easy thing to do, especially for a human resources professional.
So we would basically pass this today and then come back with a policy and procedure to back it up, deeming who's critical at that point before implementation?
Unless you change the wording of the proposed ordinance to have those safety-sensitive positions be designated by the county administrator rather than the board, in which event we could proceed.
I like the earlier, commissioners. I see nothing wrong with proceeding with this. It's all in the name of safety, and in the environment we live in right now, that's
what was your comment?
Warranted. I think, as a commissioner, I would like to be abreast of what the staff would be presenting to HR instead of the latter.
You want the county commission to designate the safety-sensitive positions, or do you want the county administrator to designate?
The county administrator, but reviewed or some sort of communication between this board and he or she.
I'd like to.
I'm confusing him, I can see.
Absolutely you are.
Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner
Very
Harris, let me
simple.
get the confusion out of
Either
here.
the county commission designates what positions are covered, or you delegate that authority to the county administrator.
Well, let me ask you this, wouldn't staff bring forward the recommendations for that group you're
If
suggesting?
the county commission was gonna do it?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine with me.
For the county commission to do it.
Does that answer your
Which is
question?
gonna delay the implementation of the effectiveness of the ordinance, but
Let's
that's
see what-
fine,
Okay, let's see what my colleagues think.
okay?
I don't know what you just changed to, but let me just say, I think it would be good for the administrator to do it. And the reason that I think that is sometimes positions may change.
Do not make those comments in the crowd or, all right, thank you.
Okay. Sometimes the position that someone already holds may change. Say if we got a grant and they were administrating the funds, that would cause for a higher degree of security. So the county administrator would be aware of who and when that position might change. So if you left that, you wouldn't bring it before the commission for each thing and embarrass anybody. Let's just have it so that it's easily done.
Okay, Commissioner Flagg?
Mr. Chairman, I think that this proposed ordinance speaks very well in its content. I believe that the competency of the Human Resource Director, the administrator, and you can do the deputy administrator and that group with the legal department can bring forward to us the positions. We're not talking about faces, we're talking about positions, and whoever may be there now, who may be coming in the future. So I believe that we can deal with that issue as the next step for them to bring forward, because we're not waiting on an applicant to apply in Putnam County to bring something to us. If the positions are already deemed selected based upon the expertise of our HR director and brought forward to us, the positions are approved in a one-time situation, and then it's there. And it's policy. Now, I think our HR director is here, and she can tell us if she have any heartburn with this. She is very competent in her area of expertise, and I just believe that we may be drilling down, trying to get oil and then.
Ms. Sam, you come to the podium, but let me finish this task. How do you feel, Mr. Pellicer?
I'm pretty well in agreement with Commissioner Flagg on what he said.
Well defined too, by the way, sir.
I think
Mr.
that.
Harvey?
I want to hear what
Okay.
Ms. Allen said. I think you.
Ms. Allen, please.
Sure, thank you for having me up here today. I think there's some confusion. This is not for our current employees. This would just be for new applicants coming in. And as our attorney stated, due to Homeland Security, changes were made to make sure the safety and well-being of our citizens as well as our employees are taken care of. So currently, we are doing background checks on our employees and everything that's been mentioned today. What this does, what this ordinance is doing is actually making an ordinance to give us the right to do it and also expand it as Homeland Security has requested that counties do.
Okay.
Chairman?
Yes.
As, in fact, as written, it could apply to current employees.
Right, that's what I've read too.
And the question is whether we want, that's the way it's written, and that's the way the model ordinance is written. We can certainly not make it applicable to current employees. I think it would only ever apply to a current employee if something came to our attention that merited going ahead and doing a federal background check.
Well, I disagree, Counselor. I think if we're going to talk position sensitive here, then we should throw the net out, and we should do the federal background checks on position sensitive. We all determined it wasn't about people, it's about position. And I think we do need to look at, if we're going to pass this, let's pass it right. Let's don't go 3 years down the road and go, well, we didn't know about that guy's past, but we knew about this guy that we just hired in here 2 years ago.
Well, so you're suggesting it stay as written?
It's position sensitive, but I like to see the criteria prior to going forward. I like to know what those position sensitive jobs are before
You're going
we pass
to, well, based on what I'm hearing, your little informal poll here, you're gonna vote to keep the ordinance as written, proposed ordinance as written, with the county commission determining what the safety sensitive positions are based on a recommendation from staff.
But the problem with this right here is the minute we pass it, if I'm not mistaken, it gets sent to the Secretary of State, the ordinance is already into effect before we set out the policies and procedures. Is that correct?
That would be correct unless you put a delayed effective date on it, but the fact that it did go into effect doesn't mean you have to start operating under it.
Well, I think we
I mean, we're making this thing way too complicated.
No, it's not. I think we're just.
Yes, you are.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Mr. Chairman,
just trying
I'm
to make
calling for a point of order. We don't need that back and forth stuff. Please open the public hearing.
Well, Commissioner Harris had her hand up a moment. Do you have additional comment?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. We're going to open the hearing then. Thank you, sir. Okay, if you can stay close, Ms. Allen. All right, at this point, we'll open it up to the public. Any further comment from the public? Okay. No, wait, Mr. Haven, Mr. Edison had his hand up first, and then you're second. Edison, you would give your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Sure,
And
my
pull the
name is
microphone close.
Sure, my name is Edison, and I lived on 528 Oak Street. I agree with Mr. Harvey here because I just want to bring this point. Let's say Malcolm X came here today, a new man and changed history, background, and he has moved forward. If we allow this backup to enhance his life, that's something to think about it. We can't condemn people who have what they have done in the past when they're looking forward to do something better with their lives. So I would like to see more his than putting something right there because people need an opportunity. You could have a background. We can't judge people always twice.
But we're not condemning, looking to
Yes,
condemn
you
it.
are,
It's
but
not
what-
a subject of commendation.
Yes, because once you check the background, that means you're depriving this individual from who either he or she has made progress in life. So I would like to say the sensitive position, yes, but you can't just be doing every citizen out there.
Mr. Fleck.
Mr. Chairman, I want to reiterate that we have a very competent HR director who practices according to EEOC standards on the local, regional, state, and national level If she was incompetent, she would not be here right now. What I'm saying to you is this: we're not legislating individuals coming to apply for positions in Putnam County. When they go through the process of making application, anyone who makes application to work for any government, local, state, or national, is subject to background check. All we're doing is fixing something and basically bringing it to a 2016 model. The things that are happening in our nation and world today, Putnam County cannot snooze and sleep based upon those realities. Let me finish my conversation, and I'm sure the chairman will let you finish. I'm simply saying this legislation that is being presented to us today for consideration and hopefully imminent adoption is designed to protect the citizens of Putnam County. This ain't no personal agenda for any of us up here. It's designed to protect our community because there is a certain expectation from the citizens and from us that individuals that are being hired by local government are properly vetted and properly screened, and there will not be a practice of discrimination, but there will be application and implementation based on qualification for our HR department. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Edison, if you would, please bring about close.
Okay. I just want to agree with this gentleman here. I think he's got a better point.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Haven.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I just quickly say that, number one, it will involve only safety-sensitive positions. It has nothing to do with background checks on private citizens.
Yes, sir.
I think that's clear, or it was clear up until a moment ago, I think.
Okay.
Did I understand that if you lived in Putnam County all your life, you were going to have to do this?
No, sir, that's not what he was saying.
Okay, all right, that's what I thought I heard. I think if we're going to do the background checks, that ought to be on everybody. There can't be any discrimination in it. Walt and I know that every member we ever took into our lodge in the last 5 years had to go under a federal background check. So it didn't make any difference if they worked out the mill. We knew them all our life. They still had to do it, and it cost them $15.
Well, there's a cost associated with the degree of background checks.
Well, I'm
that we're
sure there is,
for you.
and I think it
And-
should be for everybody, every new employee. I don't think you can back up, but the paper had something in there that you were going to specifically look at those, the librarians, somebody in public work, or in the Parks and Recreation. I can't remember what the other designation was, but, you know, what if we have somebody that's in Public Works, you know? I don't think we should pick out one section of our employees and just do it for those. I think it needs to be no matter where you go for a job, you in the county, you need to do the background check.
Mr. Chairman, it's not whether or not there is a background check, it's how intensive the background check is my
Correct.
understanding.
Yeah, but a federal background check, and not just in the state of Florida, and that's what you're trying to get at. I think it's relevant to do that.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else from the public? Yes.
I welcome the background checks. Back in the 80s, when we were hired by the state or the county, there was none. In the early 90s, they started with a background check and fingerprints. It went then to the attorney and then to the board to vote on if you passed it to get your job or not. And that's important to everybody here today, because we need to know that everybody's background is safe, that we can be in a room like this or in a meeting like this and be protected. I welcome the background check, but it needs to go, when it's done, to the attorney. He needs to look at it, and if they're approved, then he needs to bring it to the board, and you vote on those people. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public?
Mr. Chair, if I could clarify for the record,
Please, sir.
just so we're all clear, you all are clear. The way it's currently written, if this is adopted as written, it would go into effect when the Department of State receives it. However, it would not begin to be applied until the administration brings you a list of criteria for specifying what safety-sensitive positions is going to be defined as, what those positions are. At that point, then, it is the word may. It's not shall, the way it's currently written.
Thank you.
Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the ordinance requiring fingerprinting and background checks for personnel in positions deemed critical to security or public safety.
A motion on the floor.
Second.
All right, further discussion.
Yes, Mr. Attorney, Mr. Manning, explain the shall and the may real quick, if you don't mind.
The applicants in safety-sensitive positions may be subjected to this additional employment screening.
And shouldn't that say shall?
That's up to you all.
I mean, if they're sensitive, safety-sensitive positions, it shouldn't be left up to interpretation. And I hear this from this board all the time, that we don't want up to interpretation. So why would we leave a word in there as may? It should say shall.
Mr. Chairman, can our HR director come back and address that for us?
Yes, please, Ms. Ann.
May or shall?
May or
Okay.
shall?
May or shall. As you all know, Parks and Recreation employees that interact with children have different criteria, and that's been in place for several years. And we do fingerprint them now per what's required of us. We have other safety-sensitive positions for different reasons. If the employee goes into a person's home, if they provide medical service, direct care. So we have to be very careful with these things. May or shall is very important. We'd like to have the ability to do it, but if a position and someone is deemed safety sensitive and we run a clear background check and everything checks out at the first level, we go to the next level and everything's clear, we might not have to be doing that, but we're looking at a limited number of people as we move forward, unless you decide to move backward and redo everyone's background checks. But I don't think that would be a worthwhile cause. But going forward, we would like the ability, and we do already perform these functions within our limits that we have.
Okay, so I'm going to ask your opinion, may or shall?
I would prefer it be may. It just gives me more latitude if it's needed. And the Deputy County Attorney mentioned if we have a current employee and if something were to come forward or information, we do that now. If somebody brings forward information, we would run a check, but we do also inform that employee at that time.
I'm going to drill down a little bit. In your past experience in both for you and our legal staff, have you ever experienced or seen an experience where the word shall or may came back to haunt you? You had a situation that backfired. And does it leave us in any danger?
Well, I can tell you that if you change it to shall, that will also require these additional background checks to be done on current employees and all current volunteers and temporary employees and employees that fall within that safety-sensitive position category once that category is established.
Even though they might have been with us 30 years?
Correct.
Correct.
Well,
Therefore, the preference for the word may. Everybody knows, I think everybody knows the difference between shall and may. It's up to the board to decide whether you want to make this a shall or leave it to the discretion of the county administrator and the attorney and human resources.
Just
Like
for,
may.
I'm sorry.
But if you put shall and you don't do it, yeah, you're going to be in trouble.
That's what I wanted to hear, counsel. Thank you. That
Just
makes
so
my
you,
mind up.
just so you all know, we do current background checks on everyone, including our volunteers, and they sign a release form, and that's been in place for quite some time. Volunteers, we've been doing that for a long, long time. We've changed some of our forms that we do, but this is nothing new that we're going to start doing except expanding it on the Homeland Security language.
Question.
So,
If
yes.
it's,
The question's been called, but let's let Ann finish, please.
I'm good.
I'm sorry.
You're done?
Yes.
I felt
Okay.
like she was through. That's the only reason I called.
So no
All
more
right, sir.
comments can be made at this time?
No, the question's been called. Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Aye.
Okay, 4-1. Thank you, sirs and ma'ams. Okay. Item number 10 on the agenda, County Administrator Rick Leary.
Nothing beyond these appointments, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I have none.
I have none.
Mr. Harvey? Okay. I have none also. All right. Anything else beyond the appointments, Mr. Leary?
No, sir.
All right, we'll go to County Attorney Stacy Manning.
The only thing I'd like to say is that the past 6 months, Mr. Castleberry has been very helpful, and it has been extremely beneficial having him here over the past 6 months to assist in the transition. He has a wealth of knowledge, and he's given this county many years of service, and I appreciate all the knowledge that he was able to impart to me. And I'm sure there's a lot more in that head that I'll probably never know. So, but I just want everybody to know that it has been extremely beneficial, and I do appreciate the time that he's given and the assistance that he's given me, and he will be missed.
Even though he's a Seminole.
Mr. Castleberry,
No discrimination.
you were kind of rough with me today, but on your last meeting, I still love you.
Love you too, sir.
You have kept us straight, and I appreciate it, and you've taught me a lot about Robert's rules and just the correct way to conduct business and a meeting setting, and I thank you for that. Commissioners, anybody else?
We're grateful. You know, again, competency is key, and you have represented us well, and we'll see you out and about somewhere, I guess, out on the St. Johns River or somewhere.
There you go.
Okay.
Let's just give him a round of applause.
Congratulations.
Mr. Castleberry, do you have some
Parting words?
departing words?
Really want to hear them?
Yes, I do.
I don't really have any. I've enjoyed my time here. I think I've done a good job for the county. I came here in '94, I believe, and I really expected that what I'd always heard about government workers is they don't work very hard and this would be a piece of cake job, and it turned out to be quite a challenge. It's been a lot of fun. I've made some good friends, and looking forward to the next chapter of my life. I'm not going anywhere on any world trips or anything. You'll see me out and about, and that's about it.
Real quickly, what was the biggest challenge in your career here at the county?
Biggest challenge.
Oh, there
My
has-
wife said I have gained tremendous, and I know you'll find this hard to believe, I've improved greatly on my patience. So
find that-
imagine what it used to be.
Oh, my.
Poor Tony is about to lose it over.
What's that?
Poor Tony is about to lose it.
And that's the honest truth. The biggest
You're right,
challenge-
Russ. I find that hard to believe, but it's okay.
Biggest challenge was biting my tongue sometimes and trying to be a little more tactful. And I made some progress in that respect, and I'll continue to do so in the future.
Congratulations, and we look forward to you being happy in your retirement.
Thank you,
Russ.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. You are flying solo now.
Well, as of Thursday afternoon.
As of Thursday, but
Early
as far as the
Thursday
meetings, yes.
That's right.
Okay, next on the agenda, I'm going to speak for the clerk of court. He has nothing to report today. So, all right. Commissioner comments? Anything? I'd like to, yes, Mr. Pelzer. All right, see, over my shoulder there.
For those of you who didn't attend, I think you missed a great showing of the Chamber of Commerce and the Bass Elite Tournament that was put on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They shined brightly. And I talked to many, many fishermen from all over the country, and they commented and just gave us accolades like you wouldn't believe of what a great job Palatka and Putnam County did welcoming them to our home and spending some time with us. And they all, every one of them, we want to come back. We want to come back. Y'all really treat us right. The next thing I want to say is on those lines. If you didn't hear the comments made by Cliff Prince and Troy Scroggins, our two local hometown heroes, as how they were so humbly moved at what our town did for them, and then how they interacted with each other. I don't know if you know it or not, but Cliff Prince would have won that tournament if he hadn't had that first day of bad luck, and he had problems with his live well, and his fish died, and there's a penalty there, which basically kicked him out of it. He went and I guess you call sight fished or fished, trying to find fish for the next day, just for trying to locate them. And he then invited, he was on a spot, and he invited Troy Scroggins into the spot. He came up there to fish. He said, I can't keep them. I can't do anything. Come get them. Do what you want to do. That's hometown Putnam County people working together, and that's what we should all be doing, is working together as a team to make our place better. And they exemplified that. They were both very emotional when they spoke. And I did a little bit of checking, not probably deep enough, but they're, for as small a community as we have, they're the only two that are on the tournament from such a small community in the world. And that's remarkable that we have two standout stars from our home that go and represent us all over this country and promoting Putnam County where they go. And they're nice young men that we should be very proud of.
Okay. Anybody else, Commissioner, comments this morning?
No, I'd like to say it's a big shot in the arm. Brian, thank you, and Dana for that. And I tell you, it was well attended. I couldn't get down there Sunday for the last, but I did log in on the internet. And I tell you should have seen how many people were logged in to Putnam County site looking at what the final results were throughout the world. I mean, it was amazing. So it's really good to see that. The bridge lined up with people and the whole concessionaires down there. Big shot in the arm, and thank you so much. Other than that, I have no comment. Mr. Leary, would you like to talk about the community center in Interlaken for a moment?
Well, there's going to be a ribbon cutting scheduled for 10 o'clock a.m. on March the 31st for that facility, and certainly the public is invited to attend that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that the fair's going on and encourage everyone to visit our fair. There's a lot of work behind it, and it's a good thing, and so come check it out.
Okay. Mr. Flack? Okay, Mayor Hill is with us today from the city of Palatka, and I want to give a shout out to you and the whole city staff for making this fishing tournament ESPN friendly. And they sure saw the professional side of our city, and you made that happen, sir, and we thank you very much. Also, and the Tourism Development Committee from the Chamber of Commerce, I didn't see Dana right here, but what a great job. Also a shout out to our local high school track and field stars. I don't know if many of you follow that event, but at the Raines High School in Jacksonville, Florida, the Bob Hayes Invitational took place last week, and we had two 100-meter sprinters from Palatka High School, Tia Seymour and Stephen Simons, that lit it up, took first place, and there were a lot of Olympians there that were coaches, and just kind of watching the field, and I have a feeling we got a couple stars emerging with these two individuals, so keep an eye on them, and they represented us well. I was very proud to pick up that sports page that day and see that. In fact, the headlines read Palatka rules, or or something like that. I was like, really? So it was really good to see, and those youngsters did as well. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Port Authority.
Reconvene the Port Authority right now, yes. And The Port Authority members, if you'd work your way down to the front, we are going to convene the Port Authority. Is that part of this meeting?
No, it's a separate
Separate
meeting.
meeting.
It's a special meeting
Yes.
of the
Okay.
Port Authority.
Yep.
Commission meeting is adjourned.
The commission meeting is adjourned, that's correct. Well, I did right then, didn't I?
Your members are already down there.
Yeah, right.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
You're there. You are.